USA. Lawrence Dockery, what's up, man?
I'm riding high. I'm riding high.
I called you today and I said, Lawrence, we've got to do an emergency podcast because the United States women's national team.
There's good news, finally.
They just won the gold, bro. They just won the gold. Let's go, ladies.
It's the first time, and it's nice that they won gold again because, I've said before, at 3 of the last 4 major international tournaments the U.S. women's team has played, they have put up their 3 worst performances ever.
Right.
At major international tournaments, right? So, which I think is surprising to some people because of the esteem in which this team is held, because they have been quite successful.
Yeah.
And so you look at the Olympics in Rio in 2016, they finished, they got knocked out in the quarterfinals. They didn't even medal. That's the first time that had ever happened. Then 3/4 years ago for Tokyo, whatever you want to call it, they won bronze, and that's the second worst performance they've ever put up at the Olympics.
And then, kind of the 23 World Cup was
that was bottoming out.
That was bottoming out. Right?
Yes, that was their worst ever performance at a major international tournament. Let's be real, they were this close to not even making the knockout rounds.
Right.
And then they and it's not just that they were last year in New Zealand and Australia. It's not just that they didn't go far. They looked awful. Yeah. Like they were not a fun team to watch. And that has usually not been the case. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Coaching matters.
Absolutely. Before we get into Emma Hayes and just kind of what she's done in terms of injecting life into this program, I wanted to ask you, just what are your thoughts and feelings towards just these international soccer competitions like the World Cup, like the Olympics, all that kind of stuff? Is it as much fun for you as somebody who ingests as much soccer as you do throughout the year? Do you enjoy these global competitions as much as I do?
Yes, I love it. I love international soccer tournaments. That's part of the reason. This summer, I should have been on cloud 9 all summer, and U.S. Soccer, took that away from me, and I'll never forgive them for that. But there's a larger within the in the larger soccer world, it's everybody is day in day out more involved with club soccer, and that's what a lot of people. Not that they don't care about the international tournaments, but club is what matters more to them, and I'm the other way around. I think. Specifically in this country, the growth of the game, the larger growth of the game is going to be much more dependent on the success of the national teams. That's not to say that club is not important, because it very much is important.
Absolutely.
But we're in the middle right now, believe it or not, of probably the most important stretch of soccer in American history, with the number of high-level tournaments that are coming to the U.S. or have come to the U.S. and will be coming to the U.S., right? So every 2 years you have the Gold Cup. That's like our conference tournament, essentially. And that's us, and it's us and Mexico and everybody else from a monetary standpoint, maybe Honduras and El Salvador. But that was here in the U.S. all the time. But it was here in 2023, the Gold Cup. 2024, obviously, you had Copa America here in the U.S. Next year, you've got the Club World Cup in the U.S., a newly expanded Club World Cup. They haven't announced the venues for it yet. If I had to put money on it, I would guess that Nashville might get some games. And I know we're not.
You know what would have been fun?
What?
If there was some beautiful 10K, 15K stadium in Liberty Park in Memphis, Tennessee.
That would have been nice, wouldn't it have?
We got the Coliseum though. Lawrence, we got the Coliseum, man. Save the Coliseum, right?
Yeah. You got the rats, you got the asbestos, you got all that good stuff. And we're seeing, not to detour too radically, but we're all just kind of firing from the hip here today.
Yeah, this is all this is.
The model is Louisville and we're seeing Louisville. They've got their own stadium. Right. Yeah. They've been able to host club friendlies. They hosted Eintracht Frankfurt from Germany. They hosted Kaiserslautern from Germany, and they hosted a team from Mexico last year. It's allowed them to field an NWSL team, which on the broadcast today for the U.S. women winning the gold. There's been a lot of talk about how many of the players at that tournament were on NWSL rosters. Former Memphis Tiger Maya Jones now playing in the NWSL. She was taken in the 3rd round last year and plays for the San Diego Wave. It's also just announced Louisville is going to be hosting the U.S. women's national team in October. They play in Nashville on the 27th, and then they play in Louisville 3 days later. And that's all possible because they've got a stadium.
Yep.
Those are the events. Louisville just last year hosted the College Cup, the NCAA Final Four national championship game for college soccer, which I was there for Bluff City Media. They also, it's been reported, Louisville may be a base camp city for one of the teams when we host the 2026 World Cup. Not that there's going to be games there, but, it could be Australia, could be Cameroon, could be the Netherlands, could be whoever shows up, and that's like in between games. That's home. That's home base for them. It could, Louisville's, that's a possibility. So that's having your own stadium would be very nice. And if we get there, we don't, I don't know, but we're in the most important stretch of soccer, like I said, in American history. You got the newly expanded Club World Cup coming here next year after Copa America this year. And, that's going to be Chelsea, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. You're going to have like Mexican teams like Monterrey, Club America. You're going to have Boca Juniors and River Plate from Brazil. And those are going to be the teams that are going to fill up the big stadiums where you're going to have to put in soccer stadiums like Al Hilal FC from Saudi Arabia or Kurara Red Dragons from Japan, or but it's going to be a big deal. The Gold Cup is here again next year, and I think the plan is Club World Cup east of the Mississippi, Gold Cup west of the Mississippi. So everywhere somebody's going to get to go see something. Then you've also got, of course, the World Cup in 2026 is here in the U.S. And for people in Memphis, your best bet you have the opportunity to go to either Atlanta, Houston, Dallas, or Kansas City. Those are going to be the closest World Cup host cities to Memphis.
Right.
And then in 2028, the Olympics are in LA. And that, of course, brings men's and women's Olympic soccer. And not just the U.S., but you're going to have all sorts of teams drawing huge crowds. You're going to have, Mexico, if they qualify. You're going to have Brazil. You're going to have, all the South American teams. Like they're going to pack it out in LA. So if soccer is going to truly make it, and of course we're going to have to define what does make it mean, it's now or never, all the way through 2028. And how long do we give it after 2028 before we decide it's made it or not? There's also a little bit of a bummer. U.S. Soccer had wanted to bid. They had bid to host the 27 Women's World Cup. So you would have had 24, 25, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 of something big every year here. And I think they ended up deciding not to do that because the scuttlebutt is they want to do it in 2031 and they want to go head to head and beat China for hosting that.
Let's go.
That's the rumor. Whether that's
I'm down for that.
I don't know. But 27 Women's World Cup is going to be in Brazil, so that's going to make for a convenient time viewing like the 2014 World Cup was. So,
well, the momentum in this game is incredible right now. But let's go back to just what happened today, and that's the gold medal match against Brazil with the women's national team. They won 1-0 in full time. Just had a great game. Mallory Swanson scored the goal to put the USA team ahead. We're going to spend some time here, and I want to break down. I want us to kind of talk through different things that kind of stuck out to us and just about their run through this Olympic tournament. But I think the overarching thing that I think most of us would agree on is that in any sport, coaching matters, right?
Absolutely.
Coaching matters. And on November 14th of 2023, literally less than a year ago, the United States women's national team announced that Emma Hayes would be joining as the head coach for the women's national team. Just kind of break that down for us. Like, who was, for those who were not as initiated into the soccer world as you are, why was this such an important deal for the women's national team? And very clearly, she made a massive difference in just the overall culture and the way that the women's national team played even in this tournament.
She was very successful. She's originally from England. She's managed, I believe, collegiately here in the U.S. She managed, I think years ago managed Iona, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. I think you're right.
And various different iterations of American women's club soccer before the NWSL really kind of, found its footing. But most recently, she was at Chelsea's women's team in England, and was very successful. Won a lot of games, won a lot of trophies, and there's no dispute. There was no dispute in the search process. There's no dispute when they hired her, and now that she's won gold, there's definitely no dispute. She's the best women's coach in the world. And U.S. Soccer said, all right, our women's program is one of the best in the world. We need to go out, we need to spend the money, and we need to hire the best coach in the world. And that's exactly what they did, because under Vlatko Andonovski, he won a lot of games, but the U.S. women's team is always going to win a lot of games because, especially in this region of the world, women's sports is not taken very seriously. We're one of the very few countries that actually does that. So, and they don't have to go down for qualifying to Central America or to Mexico or the Caribbean, or actually, though, I believe they did actually have to play a qualifying tournament in Mexico. So there's a lot of advantages to being the coach of the U.S. women's team that you don't have if you're in other countries. So Vlatko Andonovski's record, like purely on a win-loss basis, was not bad at all. But then you looked at how they performed in the two big tournaments that he
right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just not good enough. So he had to go. You also had a case of where he was very vanilla, very much a milquetoast guy, like a certain U.S. men's coach who I'm sure I'll get to slander later.
I'm confused.
But Emma Hayes has personality. She's got charisma. And she's also not afraid to say, I'm the sheriff. I run the show. Like, I'm the captain now. Like the Captain Phillips meme, right? She comes in, she runs the show. Now, she got hired in November, but she said, I'm not leaving Chelsea in the middle of the season. You're going to let me finish the season, and I'm going to show up at the end of May. And U.S. Soccer said, if you've got the best manager in the world on the hook, and they say you're going to wait until I'm ready, you wait until they're ready.
Right.
Which is, on the men's side, if you can get a big name guy and he's like, I'm not showing up till January, you can wait. You can burn these friendly windows coming up and wait till January. You actually have to get a really good manager to do that. That's the different discussion. But Emma Hayes said, you're going to wait till I'm done with the season. U.S. Soccer said, you're worth the wait. And, this is only, she had like 2 friendlies in June, 2 friendlies in July, and then the Olympics. So she jumped like head first.
Man. That is crazy that she didn't show up until May, right? Mm-hmm. And this is what they've produced in August. That's wild.
Yes. And it's like coaching matters. And, I've used the phrase before, and I think she kind of brought them back down to earth. Not that she probably needed to, but I'm sure that was part of it. Is they had gotten high on their own supply.
Yeah,
the women's players did.
Yeah,
you just look. It's you win the 2015 Women's World Cup, you win the 2019, you win back-to-back Women's World Cups. That's you're gonna get the big head, and justifiably so. And where the best coaches excel is making sure that doesn't become a problem. And Vlatko Andonovski did not make sure that did not become a problem, because it very clearly did. And then, they didn't have some of the biggest names over the last, I'd say, year or so. They have either retired or Emma Hayes dropped them. Megan Rapinoe retired after she missed the penalty against Sweden last year at the Women's World Cup. Then, Becky Sauerbrunn, not part of the team anymore. Alex Morgan did not go to the Olympics. So that's like Alex Morgan. I don't know. I think if she's not at the top, she's near the top of the goal scoring charts for the U.S. Women's national team. And Emma Hayes said, yeah, you're not going to the Olympics. And so that's kind of putting everybody on notice, like, hey, nobody's spot's guaranteed. Nobody gets to just coast. Nobody gets to rest on their laurels. This is like, I'm running the show. I'm the new sheriff.
Wow. I mean, that's incredible, man. So what do you think it is? It's mainly that she brought in high level coaching, set the standard in terms of this is what I expect as the leader of this program. And the people that she brought were the people that bought into that, right? Like the people that bought into that. So I wanted to then kind of move the discussion a little bit to some of the players that made their mark, right? Like, what's the name? The 3 attackers that made their mark.
Nobody can. There's debate. It's floating back and forth between the Trident or the 3 espressos.
Yeah, I love it.
I don't think either one. I think either one is appropriate. I don't think either one is gonna get anybody upset. Those are
Right.
those. I mean,
The Trident's pretty badass. Like the Trident's a pretty badass name.
Trinity Rodman, Mal Swanson, and Sophia Smith. Right? They were. If they didn't score every goal for the U.S. at these Olympics, they scored just about every goal, or they were involved in some way, shape, or form in the build-up with an assist, whatever. And that's something else that I think probably needs to be talked about. Is Mal Swanson's coming off a gruesome, brutal knee injury, and I think her presence was very much missed at the Women's World Cup last year. All the dirt that we want to throw on Vlatko Andonovski, while justified, also they were without several key players down under last year. And Mal Swanson, going into that tournament, was on fire. She had scored, I think, probably in every single game from like late 2022 to April of 2023. Every game for the U.S. Women's National Team, I think she had scored. I saw her score. I covered the U.S. Women's Team in Nashville in February of 23 against Japan, and she scored the only goal in that game. And so she got hurt I think they were playing in St. Louis at the new stadium they've got there in St. Louis. And I think that was when she got hurt, if I'm not mistaken. It was against Ireland. And it's one of those ones where at the minute that happens, like you're done. You're done for a while.
It was a pretty brutal knee injury. Yeah.
And she had a very long road back, multiple surgeries. There was a real nasty infection that had somehow set in there, and that required another surgery or two. And so she's been on the sidelines for a while, and for her to come back the way that she has, and not just score in almost every game, but to score the gold medal winning goal, is mightily impressive.
And they're all young too, right? Like Mallory Swanson.
This is all like prime right now.
Right.
They're all they're like early to mid 20s right now. I think Mal Swanson is 26, maybe 25, 26, something like that.
I think, yeah.
So it was funny that you one of the things that we love in sports is when athletes are successful, somehow relating to when they were kids and the last time they watched that particular team be successul. Or
love those stories. Those stories.
I remember me and a bunch of friends in the basement with pizza and soda watching whatever.
Right.
And I remember after the U.S. missed the World Cup in 2018, they asked Christian Pulisic about it. And he was like, I remember being, 13 years old in my basement with my friends watching Clint Dempsey score 30 seconds into the first game against Ghana. And for the game today, they were talking about Mal Swanson being 12 or 13 years old at Buffalo Wild Wings watching the U.S.-Japan gold medal game at Wembley in 2012. And I love those stories. And
those stories are awesome.
It's also a little bit weird now that I've gotten up there in age just a little bit. I'm a decrepit 30. I remember these games that they're talking about now. Like I experienced those games in the same way. So that was a nice little moment there, I thought.
Yeah, imagine being my age and seeing guys come from high school into college, getting drafted to play in the NBA, retiring, and now they're the old guys, right? Like they're the old guys that have retired. And I'm like, wait a second. I remember when you were in high school playing ball like that. That's where I'm at, Lawrence. So I'm 43 years. I'm 43 years old.
The moment for me when it crystallized was, ever since I've been following college football, I've been following college football since I was in 6th grade.
Right.
And it dawned on me that I had started to age when, because they were always adults to me, right? They were always older than me. Right. And then when I became older than the college football players, that was that first real, okay, it's inevitable. Father Time is undefeated. But that was that first real, I've started to age.
So with the Trident, with the triple espressos, with Sophia Smith, Mallory Swanson, and Trinity Rodman, in terms of, they're all relatively young. 26 is Mallory Swanson. I don't remember exactly how old Trinity Rodman is. She was born in 2002, so that makes her 22 years old, bro. They're all so young. The future is pretty bright, I think, moving forward for the women's national team in terms of the talent that they've brought in and that they've developed, right?
I would say so. I guess you could say the future is always bright. but
That's true.
you don't want to just rest on it, And
Yeah.
I think part of the reason the Women's World Cup last year was such a disaster is we were kind of caught
Rested.
caught in the middle of phasing out old players, bringing in new players, and Vlaco couldn't find the right balance to that.
And that's a hard place to be, man. Like, especially when
Mhm.
you see that in every sport, right?
Yes.
Like every team deals with transitioning. Like, let's bring it here to Memphis for a second. The grit and grind era with the Memphis
Mhm.
Grizzlies, they experienced the same exact thing, right? Where it's like, we know that we need to make moves to secure the future of this franchise, but having to move off of Tony Allen, having to move off of Zach Randolph, having to move off Mark Gasol, it is a really hard thing, especially for us as fans, to
Mhm.
go, like, we have so many good memories of them in the past, right? Like, but
And that's why, like, the most successful clubs, teams, schools, organizations, whatever, you have to have a little bit of a ruthless streak, and you can't let
got to, man.
sentimentality get it. And that's hard
It's hard.
because when you've been so successful this way with this group for so long that you can't just unceremoniously, like, just get rid of them or kick
Right,
them to the
right.
curb or whatever. But if you want to continue to compete at the highest level, sometimes that's what you have to do. And I think we saw that with this women's team last year. And
Yeah.
now, and you always want, it's like in the movies. Oh, one last heist, one last ride, whatever. And this was that one last chance for these players to go out. They could have been the first women's team to win 3 straight women's World Cups, and three-peating is hard. Even Georgia football couldn't do that last year.
Right.
And unfortunately, like, the wheels just completely came off.
Well, and maybe that's why, honestly, maybe that's why the coach needed to go, because it's hard for coaches struggle with that, right? Like, coaches as well struggle with that. And so maybe there's a level of the women's national team did a fantastic job of saying, you know what, like, we know that we need to push forward and move towards the future. Our coach that we have now we won't be able to do that with him in place. So let's go get the freaking the best coach in the entire game for women's soccer.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a situation where it's like, hey, man, she's the best. So
Mhm.
we're going to have to, and she doesn't have the sentimentality towards those older players. She wants to win.
She was outside of the U.S. soccer ecosystem, which which hopefully they go with on the men's side. I think that's very important. New voice, new ideas. It's U.S. soccer over the years. For lack of a better word, it's been very incestuous.
Yeah.
A lot of
absolutely.
And so, the outside voice, it has proven dividends. Now, she's taken some lumps on social media. She's not without her flaws. The Olympics is an absolutely brutal tournament. You have a much smaller roster because FIFA doesn't want the Olympics to be anywhere near the same stature as the World Cup. So on the men's side, that's why it's a U23 event.
Right.
That's why the roster is only 18 people instead of 23 players. And that's the same for both the men's and the women's. And you only get, you can't cram. It's hard to cram six games into 16 days. 3 games in a week is a lot on the club side. So if you're going to have to play 6 games, you're only getting 2 days off between games. If you're not, depth helps with that.
Yeah.
But Emma Hayes took some lumps because she wasn't rotating the squad, from game to game. She values continuity almost above all. And that was, if this game had gone to extra time today, I think they would have been in trouble because they probably would have just run out of gas, because each of their last 2 games had gone extra time as well. So even if you are rotating your players and you've got a larger roster, you see it happen all the time at high-level international tournaments. Typically, teams that go extra time or penalties in one game lose that next game just because that's an extra 30 minutes of having to go all out.
Yeah.
And so they were, I think it does speak to the both the culture and to the individual athleticism of the American players that you went back-to-back extra time games with few or no substitutions and little or no squad rotation, and you still went on and won the gold.
So with this momentum that the United States women's national team won, that they're continuing to carry on with this gold medal win today, what needs to happen for them to continue that down the path? Like, what are some things as you're looking towards the future? And this is what we'll close out with, but as you're looking towards the future, like what steps need to be taken on the women's national side to continue this momentum to build the game?
Well, I think specifically for the team, you got to stay on your toes. You can't get complacent. You can't just be, oh, well, we're the women's team. We always win. We'll just show up and do whatever. And you got to keep it fresh. You got to keep bringing in new players, and got to every so often, maybe as the coach, send a message that, hey, like I said, nobody's spot is safe. Nobody's spot is secure.
Y'all saw what I did to Alex Morgan.
Yeah. Yes. Now maybe it's easier to do that with Alex Morgan because she was part of that generation that was aging out.
Right.
But and again, that doesn't necessarily mean that you just have to start putting bullets in players left and right to send messages, obviously. But for the team, they just got to figure it now. They don't have any real competitive games until they have to qualify for the 27 Women's World Cup. And the qualification process on the women's side is different than it is on the men's side because of just the way the games are structured. On the men's side, it's a months, years long process because you can only play 1 or 2 games in a window. The women's side, it's usually just like a tournament.
Right.
And so, it can theoretically happen where one bad game and done.
It's done.
That almost happened when the U.S. women tried to qualify for the 2011 Women's World Cup. They lost in the semifinals to Mexico, I believe, and had to go into like a home and home playoff with Italy, which they ended up winning. And that's one of the most famous moments in women's soccer history is that 2011 Women's World Cup quarterfinal against Brazil. I mean, they're dead in the water. It's the last kick of the game, the 122nd minute, and Megan Rapinoe sends in a ball from damn near midfield, and Abby Wambach out jumps everybody and heads it home, and they win in penalties. And I think people forget they didn't win that Women's World Cup. Japan beat the U.S. in penalties, but everybody remembers the Abby Wambach header. But in the way of like real intense games, they're not going to have much. I know they try to do the She Believes Cup, and that to me is just it's expensive friendlies. Granted, they are against some of the better teams in the world, but it's like we created this fake tournament to say that we won this tournament, and it's just whatever to me. But both the men and if you want to keep continuing the growth, and I think this is dramatically important with a home World Cup in 2 years on the men's side. And I've been screaming this from the mountaintops for the men's team to do. And sometimes they seem like they want to start doing it. And then you look at the upcoming home venues for the next few friendlies and you're just like, yeah, they don't really want to do that. Right. It's you got to take the team to new and different places. You can't just keep playing the national teams in the same 5 or 6 cities. It's a national team. It's not Ohio's, Texas's, Nashville's, or Florida's team. It's the national team. Play in the nation. And I understand there's, the women had sued in the past because they had to play on turf so often. And things kind of came to a head after they won the Women's World Cup in 2015. They were supposed to play a game at the now condemned Aloha Stadium in Hawaii, which is super random. The only thing that used to happen at Aloha Stadium was the Pro Bowl, and it got so bad the NFL said, "Now we're going to like Orlando." And Megan Rapinoe's leg exploded because the turf was like they had like stapled the turf together, and they didn't do it, and there were like big gaps in it, and like she fell into one of the gaps. Yeah, and so they canceled the game. Now the cynic in me says if they had sold 35,000 tickets, I don't think they would have canceled the game.
No, probably not.
But from a purely player safety perspective, that's the right call, and it sucked that it had to take somebody's leg going the wrong way for that to happen. So I understand that there's probably some limitations on where you can take the national teams, but we're seeing specifically on the women's side, we're seeing, look, they're going to Louisville. They hadn't played in Louisville since like 2004, and now they're playing in a soccer stadium with real grass. Yeah. And I think if you want momentum on both sides, you got to take the national teams to new and different places. And on the men's side, I understand. I just used a very extreme example of how bad turf is. By and large, I don't feel that turf is that big of a problem. I think that was more of an Aloha Stadium issue than a turf issue.
Right.
And I understand not wanting to do that because, I'm a referee. I was at President's Cup Nationals in Wichita last month refereeing, and that was an amazing experience, by the way. But all of the fields there were turf, and one or two times I would notice the ball bounced up and spun a little bit differently than I was used to. Like I was expecting ball bounce go this way and ball bounce and like almost hover one or two times. I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. Now I got to dial in and figure out where this defender is and line up properly because I thought we were going this way. So there are some drawbacks to playing on turf, but in the immediate future, I say that you almost have to act turf be damned and go to different and new places to sustain for the women to sustain the momentum of this gold medal. Because we saw what happened after they won the Women's World Cup in 2015. They were the hottest ticket in town. They were drawing, they drew 44,000 people to Heinz Field in Pittsburgh or
unbelievable,
whatever it's called now.
Right.
But they were playing places like Detroit. Everything's turf in Detroit. They played at Ford Field, drew 30,000 people. They played at the old Legion Field in Birmingham. They played Chattanooga. They went to all these places, and they really kind of launched themselves out of a niche and kind of into the mainstream for a minute there.
Right.
And I think they need to keep doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think they need to do that on the men's side as well.
Yeah.
They need to go to places like, Louisville or Memphis. I'd love them to come here. Where they would play, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't care. Just get them here and we'll figure it out.
Here. Yeah.
Go to like Birmingham, and Birmingham's got the Legion play. The Birmingham Legion play in UAB's football stadium. I went there in April, and that was a disaster from a media perspective. But that's a place the U.S. men's team hadn't played in Birmingham. So they played a World Cup qualifier against Guatemala in Birmingham in 2005 and got 31,000 people there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Do you think? Let me ask you this. Take this to Memphis for a second. Is there any possible way that when the new Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium is opened up that we could see potentially some friendlies and stuff like that from the national teams come through?
That's one thing I have floated that possibility just into the Twitter sphere, and it didn't get a whole lot of bites from anybody. But part of it is the university owns it now.
And that's true. I was going to say that.
And there was a lot of concern about that from a financial perspective because the city would told everybody who would listen for years and years and years how much money they lost owning the Liberty Bowl.
Well,
and now that the university owns it, you have to imagine they are going to be looking for other stuff to
that's
come
what
in
I
there.
was. That's what I was suspect. Yeah.
And and I'm sorry, the Showboats are not going to cut it. I'm sorry, they're not. There's fewer people going to Showboats games than there are at 901 FC games.
Right.
And
which, by the way, I'll say this as somebody who has now just started to be able to go to games and be on the field and on the pitch, and it is the most enjoyable sporting event experience in the city, in my opinion. It is so much fun.
And part of it is the game of soccer. You're in and out in 2 hours. You're done.
Right.
It's not a football game where you're going to be there for 4.5, 5 hours. It's right. You're in and out in 2 hours. They are a lot of fun. It helps that 901 FC is pretty good. They're in the top half of the conference right now. They've been to 3 straight playoff appearances.
This is how I put it real quick. I'll just describe it this way. Because you're up in the press box. You're up with the hoity-toities. You're up there. You don't
come down and mingle.
You don't come down and mingle with any of the normal folk down there. You're up drinking your espressos and
big coffee guy.
It is the environment to me it's a professional soccer league. So you've got incredible talent on the pitch playing. Mm-hmm. Like it is really good players coming in from the other teams on the 901 FC team. But the environment with the fans, it feels almost like an AAU high school like booster experience where everybody is so close to each other. Like the fans and the players are so engaged with each other that it's like they know every match fans will come down at the end of the game and they present presents to the players and they're just talking and I'll see you at dinner in a few nights, that kind of stuff. And it's just
it's a real it's I feel like this gets overused in soccer a lot, especially soccer, but it's a community.
It is.
It really is.
It is. It really is.
Go ahead.
Back to
the Liberty Bowl, right? I do think I would love to see, like, over the summer, once showboat season is over and you're in there June, July, early August, and there's, the place is just sitting empty and you can only put so many concerts in there. I just recently wrote a piece for World Soccer Talk listing the largest soccer, like all the club friendlies that got played in the U.S. over the summer. And there was a whole section in there about a number of them were played in college football stadiums. And Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium is just that. It's a college football stadium. And I don't know that we would maybe necessarily get Liverpool versus Barcelona, but we could get something and get 20 or 30,000 people. I mean, I'm not thinking we're going to get 65,000 people out there for it, but you could get 25,000.
Well, thankfully for the next 2 years, the limit is 32,000.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a perfect size right now just to test the waters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like let's just do one. Hey, me and Ed Scott are close. The new AD at the university.
Mm-hmm.
We're close personal friends. So I'll reach out to him and get this thing popping, man. Because we need to make it happen.
Let's get something. Whether it's national team, there's a different level of standard. I don't know if standard's the right word. That has to be met for like a national team game. And necessary for a club friendly. Club friendly, they're just there. They'll put them wherever because they're just going to sell the tickets. They're going to sell the jerseys and go on down the road. So that would be something I think would be cool as hell. And once the place is renovated and opened and shiny and new,
oh my God,
you'd probably have an easier time attracting
a national game,
events of that stature.
Yeah, man.
I think that would be cool as hell.
If there's a way that if you're concerned about making money, then let's put some events in there that will make money, right?
Yes.
And I think if you were able to secure a friendly between a national team and another country and bring it to the University of Memphis, to the Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, you don't think you would have 50,000 people show up?
Oh no, and here's what I say. I have long held that media attention is everything in every sport,
right?
But especially for soccer, and a lot of it stems from a lot of what people like. Most people, people freak out when I say this, but sports fans are very much a minority, a very vocal minority, but they are the minority. Like 100 million people watch the Super Bowl every year, right? You know how many people are in the country? 335 million people. So there's 225 million people that don't give a
that ain't watching, that don't care about the biggest football, the biggest game for the biggest sport in the country. Yeah,
exactly. So a lot of they're not in the sports talk shows. They're not in sports Twitter. They're not in, all of this like we are.
Right.
And so a lot of it has to come from local news.
Yes.
And if you take the national teams to new and different places, the local news, and this is a theory that I've always had, and I've never been able to really prove or disprove it until just like in the last week.
Yeah.
Because I follow a lot of Louisville media people, and they are going nuts.
Are they freaking out?
Over getting a U.S. women's national team game.
Yeah.
And a lot of people still watch the local news. Like there's like everybody likes to dump on local news, but a lot of people
come on, man. What are we talking about? Yeah, of course.
And a lot of local news people do a lot of really good job. I'll give shout out to Channel 24, Caleb and Rachel do a great job covering 901 FC.
Yes.
And so when the local news when you go to a place that doesn't typically get the games, the local news is going to seize on it the way that they have in Louisville. I mean, I'm talking all of their local CBS, NBC, Fox, ABC, whatever, they're going wild over it.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, really important. So from a Memphis perspective, if a renovated Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium is able to, in say 2020, in the lead up to the 2026 World Cup, I have made the case the U.S. needs to be playing all over the country in college football stadiums and selling them out because people are excited about the World Cup. Bring it to Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium.
Come on, man.
Turf be damned, field width be damned, whatever. Get the game there, get the whole country fired up for the World Cup.
I'm so down for that. I would be. Hey, and listen, here in Memphis, we've got the 901 Soccer Podcast. We will. We are going to. Lawrence Dockery will be beating that drum, banging that drum, and he will. We will cover every bit of it. We'll have all the players on. We'll
Training,
do it all.
Match day -1, post game, pre game. You got. I'll be there. I'll do it all.
Let's do it. Well, hey, listen. It's a beautiful day for women's soccer. It's a beautiful day for U.S. soccer. The women's national team has won the gold at the Olympics. USA. Congratulations to those ladies. They were amazing. It's so much fun to watch. So, Lawrence, you got any last words before we close this thing down?
Just anybody that's listening, you probably already are, but if you aren't for whatever reason, everybody get out and support Memphis 901FC. That is the best way to grow the game in this country, is to support your local team. And Memphis 901FC is your local team, as are the men and the women at the University of Memphis, both of whom are doing very well right now. So get out and support your local teams.